loves him.
Can I follow up on
Besides
Deputy
that, they'd be in
Fauci?
big trouble if they ever attacked. You know, he was a great basketball player. Did anybody know that? He was a little on the short side for the NBA, but he was talented. He won a game. I read the story. He won a game that was unwinnable against a great team, and his whole team said, "We can't beat this team," and he went in and they won the game. Right? That was a couple of years ago, but
A few years ago.
the head never changes. The attitude never changes.
Could I ask Dr. Fauci?
Yes, please.
I know he loves being up behind the podium.
He
so
does.
much. Like pulling teeth, like going to the dentist.
You have a lot of questions today. Look at you.
There's
You
a
know
lot.
this young lady behind you?
Never met her before in my life.
We're practicing social distance.
That's good. That's a good
Makes
idea.
our marriage strong.
It's good for a marriage, right? And it's something we're really gonna look at because it doesn't seem fair. If you have it, you have a big advantage, and at a certain income level you do. I think it's one of the greatest answers I've ever heard. Because Mike was able to speak for 5 minutes and not even touch your question. No, I said, that's what you call a great professional. But let me just tell you, you really are, it's really a fair question. To other countries that are very rich, I said, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to reimburse us for our costs. They don't even wanna know what I'm talking about. It takes them 20 minutes to figure it out because nobody's ever asked them to do that. And they're doing it. They're doing it. And they have no choice. They have to do it. So,
The candidate
Yeah,
first.
just real quickly, Joe Biden's campaign came out with a statement today saying that
Sleepy.
Biden would be.
did he
open.
write the statement or did some PR person write
As
it?
far as I know, the campaign was wide awake, sir, and they sent out a
Good.
statement that
For
Joe
change.
Biden would be open to having a phone call with you to talk about the coronavirus
That's
pandemic.
okay, sure.
Would you take his call? Would
Oh,
you?
absolutely. I'd
You
love
would talk to him
I'd
about
love to
it.
speak to him, sure. I'd be,
How do you
he should be
work
able to.
together?
I always found him to be a nice guy. I don't know him very well, frankly, but I think he's probably a nice guy. No, if he'd like to call, I'd absolutely take his call. Okay? You could tell him, all right?
But you have talked about the failings of the Obama administration in leaving you with empty shelves and no plans.
Well,
They have
and
said
no
you got-
ammunition,
They have
and
said you
maybe
got
no
rid of the
ammunition.
pandemic office and the National Security Council.
We didn't do that. That turned out to be a false story. Now you're starting to go, what, are you working for CNN?
I'm pointing out what they have said and what you have
Thought
said.
you were
That's
with
all.
Fox. But Fox isn't so easy either. Don't kid yourself.
Mr. President, this is not
Hey, look, John, let me
about
tell you
Fox
something.
or CNN.
You know
This
that's a
is about
false
state-
story. What you just said is a false story. This doctor knows it better than anybody. No, but you shouldn't be repeating a story that you know is false. This team is an incredible team, and that includes Army Corps of Engineers, a lot of our military people, our admirals, our generals. One of our great admirals here has done an incredible job. You haven't slept too much in the last 2 months either. Look at him. But somebody said to me, President, you look tired. I said, I should be tired. We should all be tired, but we have to win, right? Yes, sir. We continue to procure millions of swabs, test collectors. I have something here, just happen to have, it's a swab. Looks innocent, not very complicated. Anybody like to see what it looks like? Should I open it? Does everybody? Open it up. I will. I will. This is what it's about, right? Does it remind you of something? Reminds you of this, right? One's a swab, one's a Q-tip. It's actually different. It's very sophisticated, actually, but it's a little bit like, so this is the swab. And we've ordered a lot of them. They have a lot of them. Some of them, some of the states, they were shipped to states, and the states don't know where they are. And but that's it. Why don't we give this to Karen? Perhaps she'll take an extra test. Right?
We bent the curve. We
Other
flattened
than
the
that, it's a nice
curve.
look. He's a good-looking guy.
Government did it, people did it, but government facilitates people's actions, right? We had to double the hospital capacity in New York State. What do you owe the variance to? Heroic efforts on behalf of people as facilitated by government, federal and state.
You actually had something else. Are they finished with that? They left out the good part. Great job, fellas.
What was the good part?
They did a better job on ventilators. No, Andrew had something else to say that was really nice, but we won't go through that. But he really, I mean, it was really a good statement. Do you want to put the rest of it up, or do you not have it? I just think it's so good because it's bipartisan. You know, this is not about Democrats, Republicans. This is about a thing that hit our country, the likes of which has never happened to us before. Wars, those wars, Civil War, sure, but the First World War, the Second World War, they're not fought on this country. This is being fought in this country, but it's being fought in 184 countries all over the world. It's terrible. But I want to thank Andrew, Governor Cuomo, for the statement. He actually, if you go a little bit further, it was even far beyond even that. So it was good. Do you remember? Huh? Well, that's okay. Whatever. But he said some really good things, and that's it. It makes people feel good. It's actually the Wall Street Journal. Christopher was saying, I want to make people feel good too. I want to make, when they're doing a good job, I want to make people feel good. I want the Admiral to feel good. He's worked so hard. Mike has worked so hard, and it was very nice. It was on this morning. It was Andrew this morning. It's a little longer clip than that, but you'll see it was really a very nice thing that he said, and people really appreciate that because they've done a great job. The federal government's done a great job. I mean, we've learned a lot about supply chains. We've learned that it's nice to make things in the U.S. I've been saying that for a long time. One of the reasons I ran for office, because we started making things everywhere but here. And if one thing comes out of this, more than anything else, it's that we should make product in the United States. And these supply chains, they sound wonderful. But if one country has a problem, the whole chain is ruined. And I've been saying it for a long time. I ran partially on that. I ran on that, and I ran very strongly against China. And then we made a great trade deal. This pandemic has underscored the vital importance of reshoring our supply chains and bringing them back into the United States, where they belong, where they should have never left. What happens if you're in a war and you have a supply chain where half of your supplies are given to you by other countries? Who are the people that thought of this? These are globalists. It doesn't work. It certainly doesn't work during rough times, bad times, or dangerous times. No, we're going to be safe. We have to be safe. And we don't want to close anything. We're not going to be closing, but we're going to be doing it beautifully, systematically. We're working very well with the governors. I mean, I would say pretty much almost all of them. A couple of them, no matter what you do, you'll never satisfy them. You could find the cure tomorrow, and they wouldn't be satisfied. They'd find a reason to complain. Wise guys.
But by the way, not Americans who are also
Nice
coming
and
from
easy.
China.
Nice and easy. Just relax. We cut it off. People were amazed. These gentlemen, everybody was amazed that I did it. We had 21 people in a room. Everybody was against it but me. Dr. Fauci said, had I not done that, perhaps tens of thousands, and maybe much more than that, people would have died. I was very early, very, very early. And we just saw, you saw Brett Baer making a statement. They had a debate well into February, and not even mentioned, it wasn't even mentioned, the Democrats. We were very early. Oh, I'm the president. And you know what I just did? And you know what I just...
And by the way, when you issued the ban, the virus was already here.
Okay, and you know how many people, when I issued the ban, how many cases of virus were in the United States when I issued the ban? Do you know the number? No, how many cases? Remember I said one person. How many cases were here when I issued the ban? Tell
Did
me.
you know?
No, you have to do your research. How many?
I did my research. On the 23rd of March, you said you knew this was going to be a pandemic.
Can I tell you what?
well
I did know it. I did know it. All I have to do is look.
So you knew it was going to
Anybody
spread.
knew it. Just, are you ready? How many cases were in the United States when I did my ban? How many people had died in the United States?
So do you acknowledge that you didn't think
Keep
it
your
was
voice
going
down,
to
please.
spread?
Keep your voice down.
Did you not
How
think it
many?
was going
How
to
many?
spread?
How many cases were in the United States? I did a ban where I'm closing up the entire country. How many people died?
And that's a fair point.
How many people died in the United States? And yet I closed up the country, and I believe there were no deaths, 0 deaths at the time I closed up the country. Nobody was there. And you should say thank you very much for good judgment.
U.S. intelligence is saying this week that the coronavirus likely came from a level 4 lab in Wuhan. There's also another report that the NIH, under the Obama administration in 2015, gave that lab $3.7 million in a grant. Why would the U.S. give a grant like that to China?
The Obama administration gave them a grant of $3.7 million. I've been hearing about that. And we've instructed that if any grants are going to that area, we're looking at it literally about an hour ago, and also early in the morning. We will end that grant very quickly, but it was granted quite a while ago. They were granted a substantial amount of money. We're going to look at it and take a look, but I understand it was a number of years ago, right?
So you are
when did you
ending it.
hear? When did you hear was the grant was made?
2015.
2015. Who was president then? I wonder. And I think the Democrats are going to do it. Look, Nancy Pelosi, she's away on vacation or something, and she should come back. She should come back and get this done. I don't know why she's not coming back. The fact is, she's not doing her job, and there's nothing unusual about that for her. Today, I saw they announced that essentially they're doubling up on the numbers, and that's only in Wuhan. They're not talking about outside of Wuhan. So it is what it is, Steve. It is what it is. What a sad state of affairs.
Investigation into whether the virus escaped from this lab in Wuhan, how active is that, and when do you expect to
We're
hear?
looking at it. A lot of people are looking at it. It seems to make sense. They talk about a certain kind of bat, but that bat wasn't in that area. If you can believe this, that's what they're down to now is bats. But that bat is not in that area. That bat wasn't sold at that wet zone. It wasn't sold there. That bat is 40 miles away. So a lot of strange things are happening, but there is a lot of investigation going on, and we're going to find out. All I can say is wherever it came from China, in whatever form. 184 countries now are suffering because of it. And it's too bad, isn't it? And it could have been solved very easily. When it was just starting, it could have been solved really very easily. And they caught certain mistakes that they made, but this is a tiny amount of mistakes. I can tell you mistakes that were made in government where wrong countries were signed, okay? 80 million, this has been a tremendous success. And any mistake that was made, they've been caught. And it's less than 1%. That's a very good percentage. I can tell you for government. I mean, how about the Obama website, the Obamacare website, where they spent $5 billion on building a website that you could have built for peanuts? Okay. Harvard, you might say.
So, Mr. Secretary, are you going to request that those other companies, because obviously Shake Shack was not alone in being a big company that got money in this, are you going to be asking? You're going to ask them to return that money?
Yep.
Yeah,
Harvard's going to pay back the money, and they shouldn't be taking it. So Harvard's going to. You have a number of. I'm not going to mention any other names, but when I saw Harvard, they have one of the largest endowments anywhere in the country, maybe in the world, I guess, and they're going to pay back that money. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two questions, one from me and one from a reporter who couldn't be in the room because of social distancing.
One from him, one from
That's the seat. This is a print
good. That's
seat.
good.
Also campaigned on reducing legal immigration, and I'm wondering if some critics are saying that you are using the virus now in this crisis to follow through on that promise to reduce legal immigration.
No. Well, I want people that are in this country, I want our citizens to get jobs. I don't want them to have competition. We have a very unusual situation where something came in that nobody has seen for many, many decades. Probably 1917 would be the closest analogy if you look at it, when you look at the contagion, the kind of contagion we're talking about. So, no, I'm not doing that at all. I want the American worker and our American citizens to be able to get jobs. I don't want them to compete right now. There's a big difference when we have a full economy, and frankly, where some of the companies, we have many companies moving in, where they need workers. That's a big difference between that and where all of a sudden a lot of people lose jobs.
Mr. President, on China, have U.S. intelligence analysts told you that they think that the virus escaped from a Chinese research lab, that it was
Well, I can't tell you that. Have U.S. intelligence agents told me? I mean, what kind of a question is that?
Do you feel
I can't. Do you want me to tell you? Let me tell you what they told me. Look, they told me plenty. They told me plenty. Brett?
I wanted to follow up on, you said about the small business program, Harvard's going to pay the money back.
How confident are you that you can claw back money from
Well, I'm
places
going to
like
have to look.
Harvard?
I don't like when Harvard, that has, I think, a $40 billion endowment or some incredible amount of money, that Harvard gets this money. Harvard should pay that money back. I want Harvard to pay the money back, okay? And if they won't do that, then we won't do something else. They have to pay it back. I don't like it. I don't like it. This is meant for workers. This isn't meant for one of the richest institutions, not only far beyond schools, in the world. They got to pay it back. I want them to pay it back. It's an honor to have Brett Baer here. I've used his slot a lot, John. I've used that slot a lot.
Get on, Mr. President.
No.
Get on.
We want to have you back soon. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Some of the governors are not appreciative of what the federal government's done, and you've suggested that some of these governors are not doing everything they need to do, like that these governors are at fault. Can you be specific? What more in this time of
Well,
a
I think
national
we've done a
emergency
great
should these
job for the
governors
state
do?
of Washington, and I think the governor, who's a failed presidential candidate, as you know, he leveled out at 0 in the polls. He's constantly chirping, and I guess complaining would be a nice way of saying it. We're building hospitals. We've done a great job for the state of Washington. Michigan, all she does is she has no idea what's going on, and all she does is say, oh, it's the federal government's fault. And we've taken such great care of Michigan. You know the care we've taken of New Jersey. I think if you ask Governor Murphy of New Jersey, how are we doing? I think he'd say great. I think. He's a Democrat. Governor Cuomo has really said we're really doing a great job. And I saw the news conference where he was thanking the people from FEMA, the people from Army Corps of Engineers this morning. And we should be appreciative, because you know what? When they're not appreciative to me, they're not appreciative to the Army Corps, they're not appreciative to FEMA. It's not right. These people are incredible. They're working 24 hours a day. Mike Pence, I don't think he sleeps anymore. These are people that should be appreciated. He calls all the governors. I tell him, I'm a different type of person. I say, Mike, don't call the governor of Washington. You're wasting your time with him. Don't call the woman in Michigan. Well, it doesn't make any difference what happens.
The governor of Washington?
No, you know what I say? If they don't treat you right, I don't call. He's a different type of person. He'll call quietly anyway, okay? But he's done a great job. He should be appreciated for the job he's done. Yes, ma'am.
Given that older Americans are advised to stay at home and avoid...
We'll take one more question.
The question I was building up to is, are you able to guarantee, to assure these states, these hospitals, that everybody who needs a ventilator will get a ventilator?
So here's what I'll tell you. I think we're in really good shape. This is a pandemic, the likes of which nobody's seen before. I think we're in great shape. I think that, number one, we've distributed, ventilators is a big deal. We've distributed vast numbers of ventilators, and we're prepared to do vast numbers. I think we're in great shape. I hope that's the case. I hope that we're going to have leftovers so we can help other people, other countries.
Everybody who needs one will be able to get a ventilator.
Look, don't be a cutie pie, okay? Everyone who needs one. Nobody's ever done what we've done. Nobody's done anything like we've been able to do. And everything I took over was a mess. It was a broken country in so many ways other than this. We had a bad testing system. We had a bad stockpile system. We had nothing in the stockpile system. So I wouldn't tell me what being a wise guy. Go ahead.
Before you go, could I ask you something that just popped on Wall Street Journal? It says, headline, the Trump administration plans to suspend the collection of import tariffs for 3 months, according to administration officials. True or not true?
It's not even talk to me about it. Just more fake news, John. Look, not even talk to me. They're talking about, the only one I've heard that from, like as an example, China pays 25% interest on $250 billion worth of product that they send in. That's a lot. Everybody keeps saying, oh, are you going to suspend the tariffs? Well, the answer is no, but President Xi never even brought it up last night. It wasn't even discussed. It's fake news. Tell the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal does a lot of fake news, too. It's pretty amazing.
Mr. President, yesterday, why did you publicly threaten quarantine on New York, New Jersey, parts of Connecticut?
I didn't do that at all. Read the statement. Read the statement. Read what I said. I said we're going to look into possibly quarantine. I didn't say we're going to quarantine. I looked at it as a possibility because a lot of our professionals suggested quarantine. I said we're going to look at it. We then looked at it. You see, who are you with, Bloomberg, right? I can't imagine that.
You've said repeatedly that you think that some of the equipment that governors are requesting, they don't actually need. You said New York might need might not need 30,000. You said it on Sean Hannity's Fox News. You said that
why don't you people act? Let me ask you.
You said
why
some
don't
states.
Why don't you act in a little more positive? It's always trying to
My
get
question to you
get
is-
you, get you. And you know what? That's why nobody trusts the media anymore.
My
That's
question
why
to you is,
people,
how is that gonna
excuse
impact?
me, you didn't hear me. That's why you used to work for the Times and now you work for somebody else. Look, let me tell you something. Be nice. Don't
Mr.
be
President, my
threatening.
question
Don't
is-
be threatening. Be nice. Go
My
ahead.
question-
But just so you know, we're all, you, me, everybody, we're all on the same team. You know, when journalists get up, and you're a journalist, a fine journalist, when journalists get
from
up
Sean Hannity.
and ask questions that are so threatening.
I was quoting
we're all
you
on the
directly
same
from your
team.
interview with Sean Hannity.
Take a look at my interview. What I want to do is, if there is something wrong, we have to get to the bottom of it. Please,
Mr.
go
President,
ahead.
Mr. President, my second
Go ahead.
question. My
That's
second question
enough.
is.
Thank you very much. Please, please. That's enough. That's enough. That's not fair to your other reporters. It's not fair. You had a long time, a long question. If we have time, I'll get back to you for your second question. Is that okay? All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Your statement and your response and your answer is a lie. Because here's the story. You ready? I said, I want you to be appreciative of me. And then you go on. And then I go on. And you cut it off. But it says
You said,
because
I
when
want
you're
them to
not.
be appreciative. I don't want them to say things that aren't true. I want them to be appreciative. We've done a great job. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about Mike Pence, the task force. I'm talking about
Thank
FEMA,
you.
the Army Corps of Engineers.
Thank you.
But then you went on to say, if they don't treat you right, I don't call. He's a different type of person.
I don't
you
call.
Said, referring to
no,
the
I
vice
don't
president.
call. No, I don't call the governor of Washington
Why in
now.
this time?
But Mike Pence calls, and the head of FEMA calls. I don't stop them. Did I ever ask you to do anything negative, Mike, to Washington, the state of Washington? Michigan, I love that state. That's one of my favorite places in the whole world, Michigan. And I'm so proud of what's happened with the auto industry. It's coming back to Michigan. No, I don't have to call because I'm probably better off not, because we don't get, he's a failed presidential candidate. He's a nasty person. I don't like the governor of Washington. So you know who calls? I get Mike Pence to call. I get the head of FEMA to call. I get the admiral to call. But what you didn't say, see, you started it off and you talked about, I have to be appreciated. But then, when you read the rest, it said, because if you don't appreciate, you're not respecting these incredible people, the two admirals, you're not appreciating FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers who built 2,900 beds in 3.5 days, and you're not appreciating all of the work that's been done, and you're not appreciating these incredible people from private enterprise that are delivering things in numbers that nobody's ever seen. See, and that's why people aren't watching CNN very much anymore. That's why they don't like it. That's why your ratings are no good. Because you, even after knowing the truth for days now, you bring up the old lie. Read the rest of your question, the rest of your statement, you didn't put in. You have to put that in. And it said in there, FEMA, and it said in there, Army Corps of Engineers, because when they disrespect me, they're disrespecting our government. And you know what? I don't mind if I'm disrespected, but they can't disrespect the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA. Okay.
Why is the lack of
Please go ahead. I want them to appreciate the incredible job we're doing. We are doing a job the likes of which has never been done before. And there are a couple of people that know that. But for political reasons, let's say they're Democrats. They don't want to give this administration credit, and that's okay. But I don't have to deal with them. But our vice president does deal with them. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
But that's
President.
why CNN is not trusted anymore. They are not trusted. They are fake news. Remember that. Go ahead. Yes, you are, honey. Because what I want to talk about is two things. Number one is saving lives, and number two is bringing our economy back, okay? But I think we're going to do very well. That whole money, a lot of it's coming back. Please.
Mr. President, thank you. Earlier this afternoon, you had tweeted that there are on average 8.5 million Americans tuned into these daily press briefings. Yet there are some networks out there that are, concerned about taking these briefings.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. No, I've read that.
What do you say to
Well,
these
I've read that
detractors?
CNN doesn't want to cover them. I've read that, except they can't help them because the ratings are so high. If the ratings were low, they wouldn't be here. This man wouldn't be here. In 100 years, you could bet your life that he would never be here with CNN and all their cameras if they're bad, because we help their ratings. We lift up their ratings because their ratings are very low. But for the most part, I haven't heard that. I will say the Washington Post has a drive on not to go to the President of the United States news conference because frankly, so many people are watching. We're getting the word out. We're getting the accurate word out. And a lot of people are happy about it, and a lot of people aren't. But they should be happy.
And where is Dr. Fauci?
I don't know, but every time you ask that question, whenever he's not here, you look, you say, where is he? And you'll say, is there a problem? No problem whatsoever. Every time he's not here, sometimes I'll ask him to come because that's the first question that you and a couple of others from the fake news establishment ask is, where's Dr. Fauci? We're doing great together.
Different subject, if I may
Except
ask.
we're covering a different subject today. Go ahead.
Different subject, if I
Go ahead,
may
Jim.
ask.
Today, governors have said, thank you very much, great job. If they're a Democrat governor, in some cases, not in all cases at all. If I said, here's 1,000 ventilators, how many do you want? We want 1,000. Here's 1,000. You got them. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to add another 5,000. Is that good? They said, wow, that's great. And then if Jim Acosta goes and says, are you happy with the president? No, he should have given us 10,000. That's what's happening. You know why? Because that's a standard political answer. And that's a shame, because we have done a job like nobody's ever done a job.
Yesterday, Jared Kushner said the notion of the federal stockpile was it's supposed to be our stockpile. It's not supposed to be state stockpiles that they then use. What did he mean by our?
Oh, why didn't you ask him?
And
I mean,
even the fact that taxpayers from
What's
every
that? I
state
gotcha.
pay
I
for
gotcha.
it.
You
No,
use
it's
the
not a
word
gotcha.
hour.
What do
Hour,
mean
you know
by
what
that?
hour means? United States of America. That's what it means. It means
the states.
hour. It means the United States of America. And then we take that hour and we distribute it to the states.
So why did
Not
you say
that we
it's
have
not
to.
supposed to be state stockpiles that they then
Because we
use?
need it for the government and we need it for the federal government. But when the states are in, no, to also keep,
Giving it to if it's not to the states.
to keep for our country, because the federal government needs it too, not just the states. But out of that, we oftentimes choose, as an example, we have almost 10,000 ventilators, and we are ready to rock with those ventilators. We're going to bring them to various areas of the country that need them. But when he says our, he's talking about our country. He's talking, excuse me, he's talking about the federal government. I mean, it's such a basic, simple question, and you try and make it sound so bad. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You know what? You ought to be ashamed. It's such a simple question. He said our, and our means for the country, and our means for the states, because the states are a part of the country. Don't make it sound bad. Don't make it sound bad. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead, back here. You just asked your question. You just asked your question in a very nasty tone. Let's go.
You didn't give me an answer.
Please.
Mr. President,
I gave you a perfect answer. You know it. Please, Libet.
Yes, the question is about the CDC guidelines. I know that they've changed over time from February, and there's
The guidelines relative to which? The
for
masks?
instance, social distancing and the number of people who can gather in a group and so on. And now we have this measure about wearing masks. And I know you told Steve about why you don't want to wear a mask, but I'm just wondering if you can tell us more about why, because it would
I
set
just don't choose
an
to.
example.
They're not mandatory guidelines. They're guidelines. They suggest you could wear them. You don't have to wear them. In fact, the director is here. If you want to say a couple of words about it, you can if you want. You don't have to.
And your decision.
But basically, it's a voluntary thing. State director, doing a good job.
Thank you very much. I think I just want to reemphasize, I've said this before, that we're not defenseless against this virus. We have a powerful tool, a powerful weapon, that is social distancing. And we've continued to embrace that with the President's initiative to slow the spread of coronavirus. We're constantly looking at new data, and as the Surgeon General said, one of the new information that became more clear to all of us is there's a greater number of people that are asymptomatically infected than we previously thought. And as Ambassador Burke said, that may be inversely related to age. And so really the purpose here is first and foremost to embrace the social distancing. That's the number one thing. That's the powerful weapon. And you know, this virus has a great weakness. It can't jump from one person to another if it's got to swim more than 6 feet. And this is why we really want that. That said, we now know that there may be individuals in areas of significant community transmission that may be asymptomatically infected. And we know that a face barrier can actually interrupt the number of virus particles that can go from one person to the other. So as was said by the Vice President, the purpose of this face covering is to be another adjunctive mitigation strategy to protect someone from spreading the virus from themselves to someone else.
And I was just tested also, so I assume I don't have the virus, so I don't have to worry about spreading it. Okay? By the way, the models show hundreds of thousands of people are going to die. You know what I want to do? I want to come way under the models. The professionals did the models. I was never involved in a model, but at least this kind of a model. But you know what? Hundreds of thousands of people, they say they're going to die. I want much less than that. I want none, but it's too late for that. But I want very few people relative to what the models are saying. Those are projections. I hope they're wrong. I hope we're going to be under those projections.
Two questions on continuity of government.
How come you always have two? Why can't you have one?
Well, they're related.
Every time. I have three questions. I have two questions. Can you give me one instead? Because you have a couple of other people. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go with my second.
It's therefore critical that certain media outlets stop spreading false rumors and creating fear and even panic with the public. It's just incredible. I could name them, but it's the same ones, always the same ones. I guess they're looking for ratings. I don't know what they're looking for. So bad for our country. And so bad, the people understand it. You look at the levels and approval ratings, and they're the lowest they've ever been for media. It's so bad for our country, so bad for the world. You ought to put it together for a little while, get this over with, and then go back to your fake news. Here we have one of the greatest ships in the world, nuclear aircraft carrier, incredible ship with thousands and thousands of people. And you had about 120 that were infected. Now, I guess the captain stopped in Vietnam and people got off in Vietnam. Perhaps you don't do that in the middle of a pandemic or something that looked like it was going to be. You know, history would say you don't necessarily stop and let your sailors get off, number one. But more importantly, he wrote a letter. The letter was a 5-page letter from a captain. And the letter was all over the place. That's not appropriate. I don't think that's appropriate. And these are tough people. These are tough, strong people. I thought it looked terrible, to be honest with you. Now, they made their decision. I didn't make the decision. Secretary of Defense was involved, and a lot of people were involved. I thought it was terrible what he did. To write a letter? I mean, this isn't a class on literature. This is a captain of a massive ship that's nuclear powered. And he shouldn't be talking that way in a letter. He could call and ask and suggest. But he stopped in Vietnam. A lot of people got off the boat. They came back and they had infection. And I thought it was inappropriate for the captain of a ship to do. I don't want to comment as to whether or not, but I agree with their decision 100%. In the back, please.
Joe Biden actually just attacked you in a tweet. I don't know if you have seen it.
He just what?
Attacked you. He just said.
Well, he didn't write anything. Look, he has people, he has professionals from the Democrats
Mr. President,
writing.
let me just read what he said. He said Donald Trump is not responsible for the coronavirus, but he is responsible for failing to prepare our nation to respond to it. How do you respond to that, sir?
He didn't write that. That was done by a Democrat operative. He doesn't write. He's probably not even watching right now. And if he is, he doesn't understand what he's watching. But just so you understand, it was very nice what they wrote out. I don't know, you know, they released it at a strange time, you know, sort of a strange time to release something like that. But he admitted I was right. And if you read the Federalist story, which most of you won't, because you don't want to, but you'd learn something, because if you go, it goes through a chart, times. I was early. Dr. Fauci, I don't think he's changed his mind, but he said it was a very important step when we stopped China from coming in from the specific area that was heavily infected. We'd have a whole different thing right now. So I don't really know what Joe Biden said. I don't really care. And again, I see every once in a while I'll say something, I'll make a speech, and then it'll be critiqued, and I'll get this beautiful, brilliant critique. Joe Biden didn't write that. Joe Biden didn't write that. He wished he did, but he didn't.
On the jobs reports numbers.
You guys ever stop? Do you want to keep going for a little while? Huh? I mean, do you ever stop? How many times you ask? And in many cases, it's the same. Actually, a lot of good questions. Go ahead. But keep going, yes?
Yes, sir.
So you're not going to blame me that I kept it going too long? People said, oh, he kept it. Every time you'll ask it. No, I mean, no, it's amazing. Tony, every hand went up. I thought we've gone through I think every single hand went up the last time. You know what it shows you? It shows you that you love what you do. Go ahead.
We do love what we do.
You do. No, you do. And some of you do it well. Not all of you. Go ahead. I'm not looking at you, by the way. We have a good amount ready to move. I mean, literally, like an army. They're ready to move to any hotspot. But some of the ones that you're talking about, always a nasty question from CNN, but some of the ones, yeah, because I think that, frankly, because you know what, you've asked that question about 10 times over the course of about a month. And these are great loans. These are loans that get immediately paid off. These are loans that get businesses back. I wish you could ask a question where something's working so well. Now, maybe things won't work well, and I don't mind that kind, but where something's working so well, and you ask a question in such a negative way. It's doing great. Yeah, go ahead. It's doing great, really good. Maybe it won't in 2 weeks, and I'll respond differently, but it's doing great. You know it, and so does everyone else. Everyone's shocked how well it's doing.
Any way to speed up infrastructure? I mean, the Beltway in Washington, it takes forever to do any road repairs because of all the traffic.
No, I know, because they don't do construction techniques that work and that are better. I mean, I see a highway, and which is what I do. I do construction, what I did. I see a highway. That's good, but it's got a bad top. And it's got a big base, concrete base underneath. And I'll see them come in. I don't want to say where, but I could tell you, I could give you plenty of examples. And they rip the hell out of it. They take out the base. They take out everything. Now they pour a new base that isn't as good, isn't as deep, isn't as thick. The concrete base was fantastic. The footing, it takes forever. Wait a minute. It takes forever. And instead of scraping out the asphalt or whatever may be the top, scraping it off and putting the new asphalt down, putting the new median in, they could have done it. And then they open the highway and it starts to crack. The reason is because it hasn't been set. And they spend 10, 15, 20 times more money than they have to. I never believe when I watch these people doing highways and doing roadways and doing work, how they take the most expensive solution, and the bottom line, the job itself is far worse.
That's what I'm getting at, is taking advantage of the fact that so many people are staying at home, not on the roads. Is there a way to do it more cheaply?
But hopefully they're not going to be staying at home for long. Hopefully this will be out, and we're not going to have that kind of time. If we have that kind of time, we made a big mistake.
Fauci, why are you not wearing a face mask?
What do you mean, why am I not wearing a face mask now? Okay, there are a couple of reasons. One of them is that part of in fact, the major reason to wear a face mask is to protect you from infecting you. I had my test yesterday and it's negative. Okay.
That's a very good answer. All right, I think that really could be it. That was I love that answer, especially on the face mask. I thought it was very good. Go ahead.
Sir, on the equipment issue, records show that federal agencies did not begin.
Oh, stop it. Who are you with? By the way, who are you with? Who are you with?
The Associated Press. Agencies did begin bulk purchases of respirators and
Are you ready?
masks
Are you
until
ready?
mid-March.
Let me just answer your question, because I know exactly, same question you ask all the time. Ready? They have done an
It's
unbelievable
the first time I've
job in delivering for the Associated Press, which is, not so great. Not like it used to be. The people that you're looking at, FEMA, the military, what they've done is a miracle. What they've done is a miracle in getting all of this stuff. What they've done for states is incredible. And you should be thanking them for what they've done, not always asking wise guy questions. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
He accuses you of hastening the demise of the Postal Service. Could you respond to that, please?
I'm the reason the Postal Service has lost billions of dollars every year for many, many years. I'm the demise. This is the new one. I'm now the demise of the Postal Service. I'll tell you who's the demise of the Postal Service. So these internet companies that give their stuff to the Postal Service, packages, and I don't know why they're not, I don't run the Postal Service. You have a group of people, so-called independent people, and they run it. But these packages are, they lose money every time they deliver a package for Amazon or these other internet companies, these other companies that deliver. They drop everything in the post office. They say, you deliver it. And if they'd raise the prices by actually a lot, then you'd find out that the post office could make money or break even. But they don't do that, and I'm trying to figure out why. These are independent boards. They were appointed by other administrations. They're sort of long-term. They're there for a long time. And I've been talking to them also. You can look it up. Take a look. They have to raise the prices to these companies that walk in and drop thousands of packages on the floor of the post office and say, deliver it. And they make money, but the post office gets killed. Okay? So they ought to do that, and we're looking into it, and we've been pushing them now for over a year. And you know that because you've seen the stories. I'm pushing them. It's not fair for them to these great, wonderful modern companies. They walk into our old post office with all these routes that could never be built. You could never build them. They go into areas that you could never do. And they say, here, deliver this. And they lose a lot of money per package. And they have to raise their prices, but this Postal Commission doesn't do it. Now, we just got a chance to appoint a couple of people onto the commission, as I understand it, and that's good. But they have to raise their prices, otherwise they're just going to lose a lot of money. And tell your Democrat friend that he ought to focus on that, because if he focused on that, he could truly save the post office. Post office has been losing billions of dollars a year for many, many years. And have him take a look at that, because that's the way to solve the problem.
WHO being China-centric, what exactly are you talking about? Is it because China is underplayed how many victims?
I don't know. They seem to come down on the side of China. Don't close your borders to China. Don't do this. They don't report what's really going on. They didn't see it, and yet they were there. They didn't see what was going on in Wuhan. They didn't see it. How do you not see it? They didn't see it. They didn't report it. If they did see it, they must have seen it, but they didn't report it. Please.
Mr. President, can I just check in on oil again today? I was wondering if...
Oil?
Yeah.
Where is it today?
Well, I was wondering if you...
No, where's the price? Give me the price.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
How can you ask a question when you don't know the price?
I'll look it up for you.
Okay, let me do somebody else.
I've heard state officials to buy their own medical equipment. The federal officials are kind of swooping in and scooping up those orders. How are you ensuring that it's being distributed fairly? And is
well, we're getting great prices on equipment. We're getting great prices on equipment, and we're helping the states. And the governors are very thankful. Mike Pence had a call yesterday with every governor was on the call, and it was like a love fest. They're very happy. I don't know if they tell that to the press. Some of them don't. Some of them will never say good to the press, but they know we've done a great job. Not a good job, a great job. Yes, please.
Thank you, President Trump. Two quick questions.
Yeah, sure.
One on infrastructure. Members of your administration and members of Congress have pointed out that the top paid federal employee, it's not the president, it's the head of the Tennessee Valley Authority, and he made $8 million last year. And
It's ridiculous. I agree. It's ridiculous. I think it's the highest paid government. Long before I got here, you said Tennessee Valley Authority, right? Has to be the highest paid man in any government. Makes approximately $8 or $9 million. I don't know the gentleman, but he's got a heck of a job. He gets paid a lot of money. He's been there for a long while, hasn't he?
This one actually is new. It came in April, but the previous
one. That's a separate. Yeah, that's separate. But I'm talking about the. We just have some new people going on the board. I know, but as you know, that's a quasi-public agency, and whoever the head of the agency is, that person makes a lot of money.
If I could ask my second question,
which is an amazing thing, right? And when we want them to do something, they're not there for us. That's not good. That's not good. They've been there for a long time. That's been a story for a long time.
And I assume that you would support reducing that salary as part of the infrastructure bill?
Yeah, reducing it by a lot.
Thank you. And, my other question is...
That would be the greatest job in the history of government, almost. Certainly if you're into money. Tennessee Valley Authority, that's right. Go ahead. I've been waiting for somebody to ask me about that. It's been bothering me for a long time, too. Go ahead.
One of the biggest rating hits of the coronavirus, aside from these briefings, has been a show on Netflix called Tiger King.
Yeah.
And the man who's the star of this is a former zoo owner who's serving a 22-year prison sentence. He's asking you for a pardon, saying he was unfairly convicted. Your son yesterday jokingly said that he was going to advocate for it, and I was wondering if you've seen the show and if you have any thoughts on pardoning Joe Exotic.
Which son? It must be Don. I had a feeling it was Don. Is that what he said? I don't know. I know nothing about it. He has 22 years for what? What did he do?
He allegedly hired someone to murder an animal rights activist, but he said that he didn't do that, and he was...
Do you think he didn't do it? Are you on his side?
Are you
recommending a pardon?
No, I'm not advocating anything.
As a reporter, you're not allowed to do that. You'd be criticized by these. Would you recommend a pardon?
I'm not weighing in on Tiger
I don't think you would. I don't think you would. Go ahead. You have a question? I'll take a look. Is that Joe Exotic? That's Joe Exotic.
Let me get back to,
Go ahead.
We know many people around the world are paying close attention to this
Yes.
press conference. So
Yes.
on behalf of
Good. Where are you
foreign
from?
media,
Where are you from?
I'm from Taiwan.
Good.
Yes. On behalf of Foreign Media Group, I'd like to ask you two questions. First question is that the French President Macron called Iranian President Rouhani and say that Europe has started to ship the medical goods to Iran. Will you consider
Medical goods?
Yes.
That doesn't bother me.
Yeah. So will you think
If they're sending medical goods to Iran, that doesn't bother me. No. Okay.
Yeah, so the other question is that the world also paying attention to the US election. So we are also, we know that Bernie Sanders has dropped out
I
today.
did see that today.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't really drop out. He didn't really. What about his delegates? I mean, he said he's going to keep his delegates, and which is sort of interesting. He's going to keep his delegates, and he'd like to get more. Now, is he dropping out or not? That's not dropping out. When you keep your delegates and then you want more delegates before you get to the convention, that's a weird deal going on there. I don't know what's happening. And I don't know why President Obama hasn't supported Joe Biden a long time ago. There's something he feels is wrong. Why isn't he'll come out? I'm sure he's got to come out at some point, because he certainly doesn't want to see me for 4 more years. We're not. We think a little bit differently. You know what? I'll tell you. It does amaze me that President Obama hasn't supported Sleepy Joe. It just hasn't happened. When's it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Why isn't it? He knows something that you don't know. That I think I know, but you don't know. So it'll be interesting. But with Bernie, I saw his standard fare today. I watched. And I hope that a lot of Bernie Sanders people, just like they did last time, we got a tremendous percentage of Bernie people. And I think they voted for me largely because of trade, because Bernie and I agree on trade. We agree that the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country they do business with. The difference is I've done a lot about it, and I'm doing more about it. And we've made incredible trade deals, including USMCA, the deal with China, and then all of a sudden that gets disturbed by this virus situation. But China has to spend almost $250 billion on purchasing our products, $40 to $50 billion with our farmers. And the Bernie Sanders people are big believers on what I'm saying on trade, and I got a lot of them in the last election that surprised people, but it didn't surprise me. No, those are great people. They're great people. But I just, look, I'm looking at Bernie Sanders. I watched this morning, and I said, what is that all about? Mike, you saw that, the delegates. He's not giving up his delegates. He's keeping them, and he said he wants to get more of them. And I think he's doing it to negotiate, I assume, but I don't know. That's a hard thing to do. I wish you'd ask the question differently. Why don't you say it's gotten off to a tremendous start, but there are some little glitches, which, by the way, have been worked out. It would be so much nicer if you do that. But you're just incapable of asking a question in a positive way.
Is the federal government
It's
putting
already
in
done.
place
It's already
to
done.
ensure that there is
It's taken the
fairness?
measures. It's taken the measures. And we may even do a different system, not with this. We're going to have to probably add more money to this to save and to keep our small businesses going and to keep the employees of those small businesses working. But it's such a positive event, and you ask it in such a negative way. It just, I wish we had a fair media in this country, and we really don't. Speaking of unfair, how long has that person been in government? Could I ask you that?
Did serve in the previous administration.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. Oh, I see. You didn't tell me that, John. You didn't tell me that. Did serve in the previous administration. You mean the Obama administration. Thank you for telling me that. See, there's a typical fake news deal.
You asked me when she was appointed. I told you when she was appointed.
You're a
by your
third-rate
administration.
reporter, and what you just said is a disgrace, okay? You asked me, you said, sir, just got appointed. Take a look at what you said now. I said, when did this person, how long in government? Well, it was appointed in the Obama administration. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much. You will never make it. Go ahead. But they also gave us empty cupboards. The cupboard was bare. You've heard the expression? The cupboard was bare. So we took over a stockpile where the cupboard was bare and where the testing system was broken and old. And we redid it. And frankly, it would be okay for a small event, but not for a big event. and they had a chance to do it. Somebody said that a certain person, I won't tell you, but a certain person said this will happen. And that's true. The problem is that person never did anything about it. Previous administrations, they never did anything about it. You know, we all know all about pandemics and all of the things that we're seeing now, but nobody thought it was going to happen. And if we did think it was going to happen, the problem is nobody did anything about it. We did. We have rebuilt the system, and now we're a fine-tuned machine.
They're not used to seeing border checkpoints between states. How much longer? And is that something that states have to deal with you?
First, you want us to call 8 governors and tell them to do something, and then you're complaining that another governor is so strict that he actually checks the borders. I understand why he's doing that, because he knows who he has, and he doesn't want people coming in if they should maybe, you know, not be to the liking of the doctors. No, I think it's, look, he's done a great job. He's done a great job with this case, as have many other governors, but he's done a great job. One of the things I thought you were going to say is we've been very tough on our southern border. More money for our citizens, because they've gone through trauma. This has been trauma. This came out of nowhere. And I say it, and I'll say it again, we had the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had the most people working in the history of our country, almost 160 million people, far more than ever before. And then one day, our professionals correctly came to us and they said, sorry, sir, we have to close down our country. And I said, say it again. Say it again. We have to close down our country. And the entire world closed down because of this hidden enemy. Kristen, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank
You're
you.
so quiet.
Just got here.
Because you have your own show. A lot of people are tired of looking at games that are 5 years old. I looked the other day, I saw somebody, I said, wow, he looks great. I forgot. I said, oh, that was 9 years ago. I said, he's really in great shape. Well, not in great shape now, but he was in great shape then. It was 9 years ago. You know, you get tired of looking at 9-year-old baseball games and playoff games that took place 12 years ago. I don't have much time to do that, frankly, but that's what people are doing, and they want to see sports. Sports are a great thing for this country. People are going to be shaking hands as readily. Some will. I said to some of the hospital people today, so will people be shaking hands again? And I must say, I was a little surprised. Most of them said probably, because there is some kind of a thing to it. I was never a big handshaker, but when I ran for politics, I said, I think I better start shaking people's hands. In the back, go ahead, please.
Mr. President, thank you very much. I have 2 questions. One is from a
One question.
person who can't be here, and so I.
Who cares? If you can't be here, that's too bad, you know, right?
All right. Well, one question that I have is about from the United Nations, an economist, Maximo Torero, says that there's a danger that the food supply could be interrupted during this pandemic, and I wanted to know what you're going to do about that.
Well, I think our farmers are incredible. They're producing levels of food like just unbelievable. Our transportation, that's one of the reasons I have the transportation people on the line tomorrow for the delivery of the food. No, we're doing phenomenally with the food, and I will say the stores, Kroger and Walmart, which does a lot of the food, and many of the stores, they seem to be in very good shape, but I haven't heard that at all. We're going to be very strong on food supply. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You got me already. Mr. President, why did you have your name added to these coronavirus relief checks?
Well, I don't know too much about it, but I understand my name is there. I don't know where they're going, how they're going. I do understand it's not delaying anything, and I'm satisfied with that. I don't imagine it's a big deal. I'm sure people will be very happy to get a big, fat, beautiful check, and my name is on it. Professionals, Sonny, you've been waiting for, how long have you been waiting for the man that we're talking about coming in? 2.5 years. So Sonny Perdue just happens to be here talking about something else. So you've been waiting for one of the most important positions as Secretary of Agriculture is the position. It's distribution. We need it now. We're talking about shelves. We're talking about cupboards. He needs it. He's been waiting. He didn't know he was going to get this question. You've been waiting 2.5 years. The person is exceptional. That person left a very good job. And it's embarrassing to me. He'll say, do you think you'll get that man approved? He's been saying that to me for a long time. It's because of the Democrats. And what we're doing is, and I think anybody here would do it, judges are a priority. A federal judge who's going to sit for 50 years, potentially, a young judge going to be sitting for, that's always going to have to be a priority. but because they're taking so much time and approving they're trying to put us through the mill. That's when you talk about partisanship, and it's never, ever happened before. You can look at every administration in the history of this country. Nobody has ever had hundreds of people not approved after 3.5 years. Go ahead, please.
Timeline for that, though. If Congress doesn't act
we'll
by
know
when,
soon.
do you have a
They
date?
know. They've been warned, and they're being warned right now. If they don't approve it, then we're going to go this route. And we'll probably be challenged in court, and we'll see who wins. But when the court hears that we aren't getting people approved, as Sonny would say, for 2.5 years for an important position that we need because of this crisis, we needed these people before, but now we really need these people. Is anybody freezing? You know, it's very cold out here, so we can leave early, right? Okay, a couple of more. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Why do we have 20% of the world's deaths from the coronavirus when we're only 4% of the world's population?
Well, you don't know what you have. Do you think you're getting honest numbers from some of these countries? Do you really believe those numbers in this vast country called China, and that they have a certain number of cases and a certain number of deaths? Does anybody really believe that? Here's the story. We report everything. We're reporting the cases, and our reporting is good. We're reporting every death. In fact, I see this morning where New York added 3,000 deaths because they died, and they're now saying, rather than it was a heart attack, they're saying it was a heart attack caused by this, so they're adding. If you look at it, that's it. And everything we have is documented, reported. And what they are doing is, just in case, they're calling it this, and that's okay. That's okay. But we have more cases because we do more reporting. We have more cases because everything is down. But does anybody really believe the numbers of some of these countries that you've been watching and you've been reporting on, and then it's like they didn't have the big thing? There have been some really, really bad, heavily in really some countries that are in big, big trouble, and they're not reporting the facts. And that's up to them. All I know is we report the facts, and we're a country that's getting better. The World Health Organization, just like the World Trade Organization, I'm telling you, I call them, they have been treating the United States for decades so badly, and they've been so in favor of China. China took off when it joined the World Trade Organization because of what's happened. Think of it. They're considered a developing nation, and because they're and we're not. Well, we're a developing nation too in my book, okay? We're developing too. But the fact is, we have been treated so badly by these organizations, and believe me, I'm looking at that one too. We're winning a lot of lawsuits right now that we never won before in the past. We're winning a lot of money that we never won in the past. That's with the World Trade. But with the World Health Organization, what's happened there is a disgrace. We're spending $500 million to the World Health Organization, and there's something very bad going on. And you know what? I've gotten very much involved. It's been going on for a long period of time, and we don't want to be the suckers anymore. As an example, you don't hear anymore about ventilators. What happened to the ventilators? And now they're giving you the other. It's called testing. But they don't want to use all of the capacity that we've created. We have tremendous capacity. Dr. Birx will be explaining that. They know that. The governors know that. The Democrat governors know that. They're the ones that are complaining. Lawmakers must stop blocking these funds and replenish the program without delay. The Democrats have to come on board. I used to read that these were Democrat programs, not Republican. Seems to have switched around a lot, hasn't it, huh? Switched around a lot. The Republicans want it. I think the Democrats probably do too. But they also want other things that are unacceptable. This is about COVID. This is about the plague and what it's done to us. This isn't about extraneous things that they've been trying to get for years and that our country doesn't want them to have. Number for Iran. Does anybody really believe that? You see what's going on over there. Does anybody, you put that slide back if you would. Does anybody believe this number? Does anybody believe this number? You saw more
and this is why
bags on television than that.
This is
Jeff.
Mr. President, you've mentioned, and the doctor has mentioned China a few times today, that clearly suggesting that the data has not been good. And
Well, you tell me, do you think that data is good when you see that? Do you think that's correct? Okay. Do you honestly believe that's correct?
Dramatic contrast. So my question for
Dramatic?
you,
Yeah, that's dramatic.
so my question for you, sir, is
Why didn't the press? Why didn't you people figure that out though? Why do we have to put up a chart? The number is impossible. It's an impossible number to hit. But why haven't you come up and said that?
Is China now cooperating with the United States to figure out what happened, and what do you want from them now?
Well, they said they're doing an investigation. That they're doing an investigation. So let's see what happens with their investigation. But we're doing investigations also. Yeah, go. And so I just don't think you were listening.
Senators were complaining to
Which senators?
to Vice President
Which
Pence
senators?
yesterday.
Which senators?
Independent Senator Angus King.
He's not an independent, okay? Angus King is worse than any Democrat. Go ahead.
But he said that he was livid, actually.
Of course he said that. Because he's a Democrat, okay? Angus King is not an independent. He uses that term for whatever reason. It's a waste of time.
But he's not a very emotive type
Oh,
of
yes,
senator.
he is. You haven't seen him. Okay, you haven't seen him. No. Angus King is a Democrat, and that was totally staged. I heard that, and it was totally staged. Just like you read the question, he read his question. So we're trying to get 250. Nancy Pelosi is blocking it. She sits in her house in San Francisco, overlooking the ocean, and she doesn't want to come back. She doesn't want to come back. She doesn't want to come back to D.C. She's got to get back and get this thing approved. Very important. I think you have numerous countries waiting to see whether or not Sleepy Joe wins, because if Sleepy Joe won, they own our country. They will take our country. You know, we had, go back 2 months, we had by far, and China was supposed to catch us. You know better than anybody, Wall Street Journal. For years I've heard, by 2019, China will catch us. There's only one problem. Trump got elected in 2016. That was a big difference. And we were going leaps and bounds above China. And before the problem with the plague, right? China was having the worst year they've had in 67 years. That was before the plague. Now they're getting really hurt, and so is everybody getting hurt. I don't want them to get hurt, but they're all getting hurt. Everybody's getting hurt. It's a horrible thing that's happened. But we had the greatest economy in the world by far. China isn't even close. Go back 2 months. And we're going to keep it that way. But when you mention Iran, Iran is a much different country than it was. When I first came in, Iran was going to take over the entire Middle East. Right now, they just want to survive. They're having protests every week. They're loaded up with the plague, which I don't want. I've offered to help them if they want. If they need ventilators, which they do, I would send them ventilators. We have thousands of excess ventilators coming in, and here we have a stockpile of ventilators, and we're starting to send them so that hospitals can fill up their stockpile, which they should have. New York had a chance to get 16,000 ventilators, and they chose not to do it, and I understand that. It's a hard decision for a thing that may or may not happen. I fully understand that. I'm not even complaining about that. I'm only saying this. Iran was a terror when I came into office. Right now, they don't want to mess around with us. They don't want to mess around with us. Two things. North Korea, same sanctions we've always had, except more. We haven't given anything. I think you'll hopefully take that back to the Wall Street Journal because they really don't understand it. They really don't. And with Iran, I mean, that's a different country right now. And they want to make a deal. The only reason they don't, they're being shamed in because the guy that gave them the sweetheart didn't want to met with them many times. He should have never met with them. And in my opinion, he's telling them, don't wait. Maybe Trump will lose, and then you can negotiate with a patsy, with a weak guy, and you'll take over between you and Russia. Nobody's been tougher on Putin. He knows it better than anybody. Nobody's been tougher on Putin than me. Look at the sanctions. Look at what I did with their pipeline going into Europe. Nobody even knew about it. I exposed it. Now everybody talks about it. I think it's a terrible thing for Germany to do. But at the same time, I have a very good relationship with Putin, and I was able to make a deal with Russia and Saudi Arabia and OPEC Plus. They call it OPEC Plus. That's going to save us Texas, North Dakota, Oklahoma, other states, energy states, going to save us hundreds of thousands of jobs. And in fact, your paper wrote an incredible editorial for a change that Trump made a great deal for our country. That was a nice thing. I was shocked to see it coming out of the Wall Street Journal. You people aren't satisfied. So let's say we had 350 million people in the United States, right? Let's say. And if we gave every one of those people a test 10 times, so we gave 350 people a test 10 times, the fake news media would say, where's the 11th time? He didn't do his job. Trump didn't do his job. Because you have a lot of bad reporting out there. It's very sad. Nobody wants to say that. We don't want a rebound. That's so important. This is what we're just talking about. We don't want a rebound. The doctor doesn't want a rebound. These people definitely don't want a rebound. I don't think you want one, do you? Huh? You, especially. We don't want rebounds after all this death that we've suffered. Not work. I don't view work. I view it death that was unnecessary. Should have never happened. Should have never left that little area where it started. You know it, and I know it, and they know it.
You about your conversation with Governor Kemp, what did he say to you when you said you strongly disagreed with him? And for gym owners and tattoo parlor artists and barbers in Atlanta and Georgia generally, would you advise them to listen to you and not to their governor?
Look, I'd like them to listen to their governors, all of their governors. I have the right to do if I wanted to clamp it down, but I have respect for our governors. They know what they're doing. I think, and as you know, Brian Kemp, governor of Georgia, I worked very hard for his election. He beat their superstar. He beat the superstar of their party. I think you can say I helped a lot. Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, they all went in. They campaigned for him very, very hard. And he lost. He also was way down in a primary and ended up winning a primary after I came out and endorsed him. So a lot of good things, and there's a lot of good feeling between myself and Brian Kemp. I like him a lot. I happen to disagree with him only in time and timing. I disagree. When you have spas, beauty parlors, and I love these people. I know the people from spas and beauty parlors, tattoo parlors, bikers for Trump, a lot of tattoos. I love them. I love these people. And barbershops. These are great people. But you know what? Maybe you wait a little bit longer till you get into a phase 2. So do I agree with him? No. But I respect him, and I will let him make his decision. Would I do that? No. I'd keep him a little longer. I want to protect people's lives. But I'm going to let him make his decision. But I told him I totally disagree. Taking very special care of our nursing homes and our seniors, other than me. Other than me. Nobody wants to take care of me. But other than me, we're taking care of our seniors.
Well, now that we know about 25 to 50% of people are spreading asymptomatically, we suggested people wear cloth facial coverings to prevent asymptomatic spread. You wear your mask to protect me. I wear my mask, and Dr. Redfield mentioned it. I've got my mask. I believe I have mine on me, Bob. I carry mine around with me, too. I wear my mask to protect you. We're 6 feet away, which is why I'm not wearing my mask to protect you now, and we also all have been tested. So that's why I'm not wearing mine now.
Yeah, but I'm right next to you.
Well, I'll put mine on if you want me to, sir. But again, important to know that if you're going to wear a mask, it's not a substitute for social distancing. Still, social distancing is the #1 thing you can do. Number 2, it's important to know that you should practice good hand hygiene and not touch your face, because you still could touch a surface and bring disease to your face. And number 3, this is the most important, well, it's just as important. Please save the medical mask, the N95s for the healthcare workers, because the cloth facial coverings are effective, as far as we know right now, based on the best available evidence, at preventing you from spreading disease to other people. So no inconsistency there. It's just the recommendation changed because the information changed, and that's what you want from your public health leaders.
And the argument made that you knew about asymptomatic transmission at the time that you said that, and that you were essentially misleading the public so that they
the honest answer to you is no, we did not. That was the recommendation of the World Health Organization and the CDC, and we gave you the best information we could at the time. So I actually a little bit resent that implication, because I work hard to try to protect the American people, and we are always going to give the American people the best information we have available at the time. And we're humble enough to say, look, if we don't know, we're going to change. We're going to change those recommendations.
Just a wise guy question, that's all.
Are you
And why do you say he has great gifts or gifts? What, do you know him? No, but have you reviewed him? Have you studied him? Have you reported on him? You said his gifts. His gifts. I mean,
his entire career.
Well, that doesn't mean you have
developing
gifts. I know a lot of
vaccines,
people, they play
including
baseball, but they can't hit 150
well,
in the
he helped
major
develop
leagues.
the flu vaccine last
No,
year.
but you talk about his great gifts. But I think we learn a lot. And, you know, some of these questions are good. Some of them are ridiculous, frankly, but some of them are very, I think some of them are very important questions. Very important. You know, when you ask Dr. Fauci about the right to speak, if I let him speak, I'll let anybody speak. And we love him. Let's go.
Mr. President, Senator about the growing U.S. national debt as a result of these stimulus
Well, we had no
packages.
choice. Do we have a choice? Yeah, I'm always concerned about everything. We had to fix this problem. We were attacked. This was an attack. This wasn't just, oh, gee. And this wasn't the flu, by the way. You know, they like to say the flu. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. 1917 was the last time. The problem is if we did 350 million tests, one for each person, the media would say, oh, you should have done 2 for each person. No matter what you do, it doesn't make any difference. It's just like the ventilators. I talk about it all the time. Nobody ever mentions ventilators. One of the hardest things are ventilators. And now we're making thousands a week. Spas, beauty parlors, tattoo parlors. And by the way, I want them to open. Oh, excuse me. I want them to open, and I want them to open as soon as possible. And I want the state to open. But I wasn't happy with Brian Kemp. I will tell you that right now. Yeah, go ahead.
So are you surprised he defied you on that? Because
No,
you
he
made it
didn't.
clear.
No, he didn't defy me at all. That's your language. He didn't defy me. You know what happened? I said, you make your own decision. I told him that. I said, you're not in the guidelines, but I'm letting you make your own decision. But I want people to be safe, and I want the people in Georgia to be safe. And I don't want this thing to flare up because you're deciding to do something that is not in the guidelines. And I went to Deborah and Dr. Fauci and other people, and they weren't thrilled about it. And I could have stopped them, but I decided, and we all agreed, they got to watch it closely. So we'll see what happens. I told him very distinctly, I said, Mike was there, I said, you do what you think is best. But if you ask me, am I happy about it? I'm not happy about it, and I'm not happy about Brian Kemp. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Looking forward to November, the election. Given the risk that the flu and the coronavirus there could be a problem. Do you think there is a risk that there will be lack of agreement, lack of legitimacy to the results in a very close election, and people start saying, well, a whole bunch of people couldn't go and vote because they were scared?
I can't tell you what's going to happen in an election. Yeah, great question. I can't tell you what's going to happen. We have a sleepy guy in a basement of a house that the press is giving a free pass to, who doesn't want to do debates because of COVID, and lots of things are happening, right? And I watched a couple of interviews, and I say, oh, I look forward to this. But they're keeping him sheltered because of the coronavirus. And he's not moving around. He's not moving too much. And then I watch what the press does to the Republican Party, and to me in particular. We had a lot of good partners. Gavin Newsom today thanked us very much. Gavin Newsom, California, thanked us so much for getting him all the things that he needed so he can keep going and keep doing a good job. We got it to him today. Tomorrow we're getting him even more. Would have been harder for him to get it than us. We agreed to get it. We got it on time. He said promises made, promises kept. He actually said that in a statement today. We've done a good job. We've gotten very little credit for the great job we've done because of the media, because the media is not an honest media, in my opinion, much of it. Not all of it. We have some great reporters that I have tremendous respect, but much of the media is not honest. So you know you have a choice. You can stay and watch these wonderful people ask us really nice questions, or you can go back to building beds.
Sir, I got a lot of building to do. I'm going to leave if you don't mind.
Thanks, sir. Very impressive. That's an impressive job, isn't it? Seriously? It's really great. Thank you very much. He's a terrific gentleman. We have a lot of great people doing that kind of thing that they really have to get recognition for the incredible job they're doing. This pandemic has reaffirmed the importance of keeping vital supply chains at home. We cannot outsource our independence. We cannot be reliant on foreign nations. I've been saying this for a long time. If we've learned one thing, it's let's do it here, let's build it here, let's make it here. We've got the greatest country in the world. We've got to start bringing our supply chains back. Somebody years ago got this crazy idea, let's build all over the place and let's have parts, let's have a screw for a car delivered and made in a country that's far away. And let's have a fender made someplace else, and let's do this and let's do that, and let's put it all together. And I like making it right here in the USA. And I think we've learned a lot about that, and especially maybe when it comes to pharmaceutical products, having to do with testing, because testing is a big word. Remember, it was all ventilators. And the reason it was all ventilators, they said, there's no way he'll ever be able to catch this one. And not only did we catch it, we are now the king of ventilators all over the world. We can send them anywhere. We have thousands being made a week. But you know the price of oil right now, don't you?
I do. Do you know the price of oil?
I actually do.
It's negative $37.
Of course,
Yeah.
nobody's ever heard of negative oil before, but it's for a short term.
In your opening remarks, you were talking about the PPP deal, and then you mentioned the 75 million barrels of oil that you previously had said you wanted to purchase.
Yes.
You weren't able to get funding for that in the first deal. So I'm wondering, are you...
Well, at the price you're talking about, you don't need funding. They pay you, see? You know?
If you can go get it
Right
in
now,
the next
if you can
24
get it,
hours,
that's
yeah.
true, if you can get it.
So my first question is, are you asking for that
Well,
funding
at a
as part of
minimum,
the
we'll let
PPP
people
deal?
store, so we'll store it, we'll use it as storage, and charge for it. But people need storage desperately, and we have massive storage under the petroleum.
So you're not going to make it a requirement of the PPP interim funding deal?
It's not a question of requirement. If we could buy it for nothing, we're going to take everything we can get. The only thing I like better than that is where they pay you to take the oil. No, we are negotiating for President Moon and for South Korea to help us monetarily, because we, as you know, we have 32,000 soldiers there. That varies from 28 to 32,000 in South Korea. And we think that before I came aboard, they paid very little, if anything. So we're defending a wonderful nation, a nation that we have great relationships, but we're asking them to pay for a big percentage of what we're doing. It's not fair. So it's not a question of reduction. It's a question of will they contribute toward the defense of their own nation. We're defending nations that are very wealthy. South Korea is a very wealthy nation. They make our television sets, they make ships, they make everything. And I give them great credit. We've been defending them for many, many decades, as you know, over 8 decades. And I've gone to them in the past. Last year I went to them, and now they're paying $1 billion a year. And I went to them again. I said, look, I'll be back, because that's just a fraction. And again, the relationship is great, but it's just not a fair relationship. We renegotiated the trade deal and made it a much more equitable deal than it was in the past. It was a terrible deal. It was done by Hillary Clinton. It was a terrible deal. The new deal is a much more equitable deal. That's on trade. But on the military, I mean, we're paying for the military to defend another nation that's 8,500 miles away. And they're not the only one I'm talking to, by the way, as you know. I won't go into names, but I've done this. Nobody talks about it, but I think it's appropriate. I think the taxpayer of our country, taxpayers want to hear these things. And so now they've offered us a certain amount of money, and I've rejected it. That's a good question, that was. Where did that come from?
Once in a while, I pull one out of my hat.
No, that's very impressive. You know, when Senator Schumer wrote a letter a couple of months ago, and he said, you should use admirals and generals. I said, well, that's where first of all, we have our vice president has been incredible, but we have the admirals, we have the generals. And I was just talking to the admiral inside just before we came out. I said, did you go to Annapolis? He said, no, sir. I said, oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. Where did you go? He said, I went to Harvard. Oh, that's okay too, I guess, right? So you went to Harvard, and he was a great student at Harvard. He's doing a fantastic job. Remember this, we've tested more than any country in the world by far. In fact, I think I read where if you add up every other country in the world, we've tested more. But remember this, we're dealing in politics. We're dealing with a thing called November 3rd of this year. Do you know what November 3rd represents, right? You know better than anybody in the room. November 3rd of this year, it's called the presidential election. No matter what I do, no matter where we go, no matter how well we do, no matter what, if I came up with a tablet, you take it and this plague is gone. They'll say, Trump did a terrible job, terrible, terrible, because that's their soundbite. That's the political soundbite. they know the great job we've done. I don't know about rallies. I really don't know about rallies. I know one thing. I haven't left the White House in months, except for a brief moment to give a wonderful ship the comfort.
You held a rally in March.
I don't know. Did I hold a rally? I'm sorry, I hold a rally. Did I hold a rally? Let me tell you, in January, when I did this, you had virtually no cases and no deaths, and yet I put it on. So how could I not? Why was Nancy Pelosi, right? Nancy Pelosi is holding a street fair. She wants a street fair in San Francisco in Chinatown to prove, you know what the purpose of it was? To prove that there's no problem. Many other politicians did the same thing and wanted to prove. While I was, no, of course not. No. I've been, people are amazed at how early I acted, and I did act early. With that being said, it's very hard to say, let's close down the greatest economy in the history of the world. I had it closed down. I and everybody else that works with me and 300 and close to 350 million people built the greatest economy in the history of the world. Best employment numbers, best stock market numbers, best numbers in virtually every category, even good manufacturing numbers. The previous administration said manufacturing was dead for our country. Even great manufacturing numbers. And you know what? I did that, and somebody walked into my office and said, sir, you're going to have to close down the economy. You're going to have to close the country. But you know what I say to you? We're going to rebuild it, and we're going to rebuild it better, and it's going to go faster than people think. I built it once, I'll build it a second time. Things are happening that are very good. The country is coming together. And I'll tell you what, the people are coming together. The people are really coming together. I think you're going to find that our country is much more unified. I do think that the press, the media, foments a lot of this, a lot of anger. I really believe it foments tremendous anger. For instance, I'll be asked a tremendously hostile question from somebody, and then I'll answer it in a hostile way, which is appropriate. Otherwise, you look foolish. Otherwise, it looks like just walk off the stage and bow your head. I can't do that. You know, I just can't do that. But a lot of these questions that are asked from certain networks are so hostile, and there's no reason for it. There's no reason for it. We are in a war. This is a World War II. This is a World War I, where, by the way, the war essentially ended because of a plague. That was one of the worst ever. They lost almost 100 million people. But we're in a big war.